All right, my name is Jiang. I'm part of the GSV team here. There are still some seats up at the front if you want to come file in. This is not the Hunger Games. You're not volunteering to be a tribute if you sit in the front row. So please come on down.
I know.
So I get the pleasure of having this delightful conversation with these three amazing innovators who are all part of really large corporations who are still at the forefront of innovation. And so before we jump into their introductions and backgrounds, we're going to play a little Jeopardy. So the question is, which tech CEO said that what most companies do wrong is that they fundamentally miss the future? No? The answer is, who's Larry Page? So I got one more for you. So which tech CEO, when people asked him about competition, he said, I'm more afraid of two people in a garage. Jeff Bezos. Who's Jeff Bezos? So there's no wonder that they're two of the most innovative companies still in the world today. So I'm delighted to introduce the panelists today. To my immediate left is Bonny Simi. She's the president of JetBlue Technology Ventures, who is leading the first venture capital fund at an airline of all time. And she is a 3-time Olympian as well as a pilot. So welcome, Bonny. To her left is Kate O'Keefe, who is the managing director of CHILL, the Cisco HyperInnovation Living Labs. She's created one of the most revered corporate innovation programs in the world, and Fast Company named Kate one of the most creative people in business in 2016. And last but not least, Neville Taraporewalla, who's the president of the Times Group, the largest media platform in India. Before that, he was the MD of Yahoo India and the general manager of Microsoft in India. So we have these three amazing innovators who are at the forefront of their companies, and we just love to have a conversation about how you're thinking about innovation in the context of a very large company. So, maybe to begin with Bonny, tell us, what are the areas that you are looking at in your company, and what are you most excited about in the next year or so?
Yeah, sure. So we, JetBlue Technology Ventures, we launched about 18 months ago, actually right here in GSVlabs. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful home for us. We've since expanded and grown. And for us, we're looking at the entire travel experience. So we incubate and invest in early stage startups at the intersection of technology, travel, and hospitality. And it's not just airlines, because in the end of the day, we think that when you want to travel, you want to, from the moment you think you want to travel till you come back and say, wow, that entire experience was amazing. And thinking of all of the transformation that is happening now, whether it's because of mobile, because of AI, machine learning, all the things that are out there, we felt we needed to be right here. Many of the startups that we work with are the two guys in the garage. We have several that are in our space, and they're craving for connections with the company, but JetBlue's not quite ready. Like most companies are not quite ready for the two guys in the garage yet. We play that translator role.
Excellent. Kate?
Yeah, so I work for Cisco, which was, well, not two guys in a garage, a guy and a girl in a garage just here at Stanford 30 years ago, for Sandy. So Cisco obviously has a 30-year history of being a huge innovator, but of course we have the reputation of being old tech because we've been around for a while. We are a huge venture capitalist here, actually the third largest strategic venture capital firm here in the Valley, and the fifth venture capitalist globally with $2.2 billion that we're investing in startups. We've got about 100 direct startup investments and 200 in total, working with a bunch of other partners. The work I do specifically is about making markets, and it's about bringing together 4 or 5 or 6 large corporations at once in order to transform an industry at once. So rather than startups coming to us all day long, which they do and we welcome them to, saying, have we got an idea for you, Cisco? This is an opportunity for us, shoulder to shoulder with some of the grown-ups of the marketplace, to go to the startup community and say, if only you could build this for us, then we would like to invest in that and be a part of that. And in fact, one of the startups that has been created in that way is called MyWays. They're actually launching today here in the lobby here at GSV Capital. So congratulations to those guys. I'd like to give them a hand. That's in the digital health space, and that's about how we'll support through collaboration technology. How can we support the caregivers around a cancer patient? So in terms of some of the things that we're looking at, we're interested in, obviously, in the digital health space. We're interested in blockchain and the supply chain management space. And the next really big focus for the work that my team will be doing is in the future of work.
Excellent. So Neville, one of the important, I think, aspect of this is you guys came from, obviously Times Group is based in India, and you opened up a Silicon Valley office. What was the impetus for that? Talk about what you do, what was the impetus for that, and why you're partnering with GSVlabs.
Okay, fine. Very quickly, I'll just rewind a little bit. We are a 78-year-old group. We were a strong publisher in India, and with the landscape changing in India, in 1995, we actually took the plunge into the new media, which is the internet, and thereafter we are one of the largest multimedia platforms that people can communicate through print, television, internet, radio, outdoor, and of course various other platforms that we have for companies to really communicate. And 10 years ago, that's in about 2004-05, we created something called Brand Solutions, which is going to early stage companies, and most early stage companies really would fizzle out. Even if they had a great product and service, they would fizzle out because they didn't have marketing strength. We went to those companies and said, hey, we want to partner with you, we want to invest in your idea. We were agnostic, we didn't want any particular sector, but today we have over $3 billion worth of assets under management, and about 800 companies in India that we have invested in. In 2015, we came to GSVlabs, and we decided that we wanted to look at finding a way to sort of take advantage of this bridge which was building between the US and India. We found there were a number of companies in the United States which were looking at India as a potential expansion, their global expansion, and we believe that as the largest media player offering an audience across multimedia platforms, we could be a great strategic fit. And since then, we've done almost 10 investments, which include Coursera, who just spoke earlier, which includes Uber, which includes Airbnb, and some very early stage startups in the last 18 months. So Silicon Valley had this little connect with India. We just took advantage of that, and we are hoping that we'll be able to get more US companies looking at India as a market, and hopefully we'll be able to leverage our assets in India for their benefit.
Yeah, so going back to that Larry Page quote where he talked about most companies miss the future. So what are you guys doing in your respective companies to make sure that you don't, what's the most important thing that you do to make sure that you don't miss the future?
Yeah, so for us, we believe the transportation ecosystem and travel in general is built on legacy platforms. Your airline tickets, your hotel reservation platform, absolute, and on top of that, we're operating companies. So operating companies tend to focus on, getting you safely from point A to point B, which I hope you appreciate that. But that type of mentality isn't as good as trying to think about what's going to happen in 5 years. So by completely separating from JetBlue, so we have a separate subsidiary, we're out here, JetBlue's headquarters is in New York. My team live in 5 years hence. So my team is constantly thinking, and the startups that we're investing in are things that will impact JetBlue in years 2020 to 2025. Things like electric hybrid aircraft. So we invested in one where we believe that will transform particularly short-haul travel. We're looking at investing in some blockchain. We do believe that that's going to change how the economy is going to operate. Right now, if I were to bring that to JetBlue, the startups would be squashed. And so for us, by living in that and giving them the space when they're ready, now at the same time, I have to have, we partner with some startups that are ready, so these are maybe a little bit later stage, Series C, D, ready for implementation at JetBlue so that we can show the value to JetBlue now and begin begin transforming some, about 40% of the work we do is POCs with JetBlue and implementations, and the other 60% is 5 years hence.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, from a Cisco perspective, I think it's a little similar, right? I mean, we believe that our participation in the marketplace from a VC perspective allows us to buy options on the future, which helps us learn. I think also for a large corporation, having that kind of capital invested changes the corporation's relationship to risk. You know, the idea of venturing and trialing and all those sorts of things become far more mainstream when we participate so actively in the marketplace in that way. But I think as much as anything, the work that I do in Chill, I guess, is about really building a bridge between the operational leadership and the operational priorities of the organization and those of the immediate ecosystem around us, building a bridge between that and the more risky 5-year out type of work. You know, when we stand shoulder to shoulder through the Chill process with other large corporations, for example, when we brought together a lab recently in the securing the digitized supply chain and blockchain conversation. We involved Intel, GE, DB Schenker, a large global logistics company, and Cisco, and all the senior leadership of those companies at once in order to decide where we were going to take this marketplace. And given the collective supply chains of those organizations was about $500 billion, we're able to actually make market-making decisions. And so when we're creating, and that makes a huge difference to, you know, the startups that we could potentially create together from scratch in an environment like this. It can also change the kind of investments that we make because that gives us that depth of knowledge. So I think building on what Bonny says, you know, how do you bring that knowledge into the operational decisions that are made by the organization? That's one of the biggest challenges that we face as we think about how we're going to make that future.
Now, I'll build on one thing here. One of the challenges, because if we're operating at 5 years out and JetBlue's operating here,
right,
how will I ever get things back here? One of what we have been doing in our portfolio companies is I take officers from JetBlue and they're the board members for our startups instead of my investment investment associates. So we're starting so that the SVP of Safety, Security, and Operations is the board member for Zunum, the electric hybrid aircraft, rather than me.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, so we started innovating with the changing landscape in '96. We first took our first steps in investing in our digital businesses, and today, as we sit in 2017, just to give you some numbers, we compete with Facebook. We have 200 million users who come to the Times Group websites on the internet platform that we have. We have 35 properties. We've got 4,000 people who work for our internet business. 60% of them are the technology and the engineering folks. So our investment in competing and with the changing scenario is that on one side we invested hugely in our internet and online platform, which makes us leaders in news, music. We have the biggest music streaming platform, which is way ahead of Savan, which is from the US, and a couple of others, cricket, etc. And on the other side, our investment business really invests in these early stage companies, which ultimately will grow to be a large brand in the country.
Mm-hmm. How do you guys think about engaging the you're a small group within this massive company, so you can pull a couple people out and sit on boards and do these things, but how do you get the entire company to move forward?
Like for us, part of it too is where is the senior leadership and where is their mindset? So we were established because the board of directors of JetBlue said this is JetBlue is 5% of the U.S. market. You have large airlines, United, American, Delta, Southwest. How do we remain relevant? We need to be thinking beyond, faster than they are. And so it's a board imperative. In fact, it should be a board imperative for every public company out there. And so because of that high pressure, it was built into the senior leadership, and it's actually built into the company's goals that different departments will do POCs. We'll take on a certain number of implementations, and then partnering with our partners. So we're partnering with our IT partners as well, some of our platforms. And so in the end of the day, it's many, 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 many multiple points of entry into the organization.
Yeah, so to be honest, it's not part of the conversation. It's the whole damn conversation for someone like Bonny and I.
Sure.
How do we bring the business with us? And likewise, we think very deeply about how we can connect, across the organization, but at the most senior levels. what occurred to me as I started to build this capability is that it's only really the most senior leadership that really care 3, 4, 5 years out.
Yeah.
And so not only is that important within my own organization, but it's important in the connections that we make with other industry partners. You know, as I mentioned, my work in Chill in Cisco is all about bringing together different industry leaders at once. And that's because coming up with an idea and then trying to shop it out to sponsors and stakeholders, I mean, it's a fool's errand. You know, you've got to be inclusive of that leadership in the creation, in the genesis of the ideas. So when we bring, you know, a Chill lab together, there's usually 120 folks there, you know, in person, including all the senior leadership of these large corporations at once. And at the end of it, we have an on-the-spot investment decision, you know, made by CEOs in that moment. And this startup that we're launching here today, MyWays, as an example, it was in the digital health space. We had Cisco, Walgreens, we had 2 hospitals, Community Health Network and UCSF and Vocera, a healthcare startup, together on the spot. All the senior leadership of those companies in place, 60 cancer patients, cancer doctors, cancer nurses in situ, testing prototypes round after round that allowed that pitch at the end to those CEOs to be really inclusive of what the patient experience could be. We were able to appoint the acting CEO 2 months later, Mike Jordan, who's here today, and we incorporated that company just 2 weeks ago. So the power of that inclusion is what really allows us to move faster than the speed of startups. So, and for a large corporation, that's no small feat.
Yeah. So Neville, and I would love to hear from all of you. There are dozens of people here who would probably like to have you as a customer, as an investor. How do they find you, engage with the Times Group, Cisco, JetBlue, and find the right person to sell their product to?
Okay, shall I start?
Yeah.
So probably in 2015 when we set up, we used to, you know, sort of go and meet people and really, you know, it's all about storytelling as to what we were in India. And today, I think it's reversed. We do have people who call us largely to the partnership that we have with GSV. We have, you know, we have a joint venture also with GSV in India. I think all of that put together makes a lot of people, you know, sort of, we have a lot of walk-ins today who talk to us. But obviously, you know, there are so many who come in. We need to really find out that particular company which is ready to go to India. So from our perspective, we have to be really careful. But yes, we get a lot of people inbound now, which used to be earlier outbound because we had to go and tell our story.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, from a Cisco perspective, you know, if you want to be part of the movement, the MyWay startup that we have that we're putting together is in the middle of raising a pre-seed round. They already have committed funds from Cisco and Community Healthcare Network. So that's here today. They'd love to hear from you. In terms of, you know, the broader work that we're doing, we're creating startups at the moment in the blockchain and supply chain space. And in terms of the living labs that we have coming up, we'll be looking at the future of work. So we're thinking about the worker of the future, augmenting the worker of the future, the workplace of the future. And in terms of perhaps working with you, Neville, we'll also be looking at the future of media. That'll also be a really big passion project. We'll be taking that on shortly.
Mm-hmm. So for us, and I'll kind of cover both those who are the startup entrepreneurs in the audience, as well as the investors, because, and I'll start with on the investor side, we don't take a lead. We're strategic. We like to have, and so we work on syndicates. So we'll put together a syndicate. You can reach out to us. Reach out. I mean, you can just go to our website of JetBlueVentures.com to reach out to us to say, hey, we'd like to co-invest in things in the travel and hospitality space. So what areas? So in our startup, we have some investments at pre-seed all the way up to Series C. And for us, we sort of have 5 general themes that we're looking at. The seamless customer experience, which is something all of you, I hope, would like that day when imagine you can get get picked up at your house, brought to a airport. Doesn't have to even be San Francisco, could be one of the smaller ones. Everybody recognizes you because of the biometrics. You get on the plane, there's great CRM because, repeat customer, your bags are delivered right to you. The experience you want to have,
yes, please,
is what we aim to innovate around. So any startups in that space, customer service, so we are going to be investing and deploying in omni-channel customer service, maintenance, operations, and planning, distribution, loyalty, and that fits where in the blockchain side. And then we believe that you will not go to San Francisco to fly to LA. You will go to San Francisco to fly to London or New York. So long haul travel, we don't think there's going to be as much disruption, but short haul travel, there's a lot of disruption. So we're very involved in that. So you can just reach out to us. I will say we touched with 950 startups in 2016, and we're on pace to exceed that in 2017, where we just reach out to us.
You guys are busy.
Yeah.
So what are some of the, I'm curious, what are some of the lessons you've learned engaging with GSVlabs as an ecosystem, and maybe what are some of the lessons and surprises you've had coming into Silicon Valley for Bonny and Neville?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for us, like I said, it was all about storytelling. We visited a number of accelerators, and we decided to sort of go with GSV. I think we wanted, when you look at what we were really looking for, we were looking at companies which are at a certain matured stage. We believe that when you look at the ecosystem which has been built out here is significantly much more matured than it is at probably other accelerators, and that gave us a lot of comfort level. I think the most important thing for an organization like ours, which is privately held, is the culture. I think the culture that we imbibe as the Times Group and we want to get associated with, I thought we found all of that in the GSV ecosystem. So I think these are some of the areas that we decided that this would be the right place for us to really, and we have our office here and we operate from here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for us, the business model of how we work with GSVlabs is a little different. We are actually creating companies from scratch here. So Marlon and team and Alec have been incredible partners in, taking the vision that we have for a company that we want to create, being inclusive of us and the other investor strategics that are coming with us, and helping us create a business from scratch. I mean, you can't get any more badass and thoughtful and cutting edge than that. So we found this to be a really good natural home for us to work with a partner that deeply able to be that nimble and able to structure a program specifically for Cisco to be in the business of making startups from scratch.
Yeah. Bonny, can you top that?
Yeah, well, the partnership has been amazing. So for us, if I go back 18 months, it was this directive from the board and our CEO is go figure it out. I was one person. Now, granted, I'm from here, originally from the Valley. However, venture and entrepreneurship wasn't my area of expertise. I'm a pilot. Still, I'm a JetBlue pilot. But I came out here, and at the end of the day, it's about relationships. And through a mutual relationship, I said, look, I need to park myself somewhere in the middle of that valley to begin figuring it out. And my friend said, you need to go to GSVlabs. And I met Alec, Marlon. In fact, one of the very first conversation was Lee, and I said, look, I sat down with everyone, how should I build this? And from that moment until now, 18 months later, I have a team of 9. We have our own incubator space. We've grown. We're now at San Carlos Airport, although we have some space here as well. We've seen over 1,200 startups. We've invested in 8 and have really gotten on the map. And it's based upon the core elements of the relationships that were built right here in this building and in the building where it was before. And Lee, when I said, I need to hire an associate, how do I find a really well-connected associate? Lee, you're great, connected. He sent me great talent. So it's really around the relationships here in the Valley. And I think probably the biggest surprise, even for someone who grew up here, people look around the world how that Silicon Valley must be so big. It's unapproachable. It's actually very small.
Yeah.
Very small. That was the true surprise for me. I'll go to events and I'll see 6 people that I saw 2 nights ago at a completely different event up in San Francisco, and it's just a once you're in, And thanks to GSV, you're in.
Yeah. It's our bubble and we love it. So quickly, as the last question, give us something that you're really excited about that you guys are working on. I know JetBlue is doing facial recognition technology. Give us just like the little snippet of the future that most people haven't seen yet.
So, the area of biometrics is, when you think of travel and seamless travel, it definitely is a space, and we are playing with it. We are working in it. It's incredibly exciting, but it's also scary. Where is that balance of privacy and data and biometrics? If you truly want that amazing seamless experience, you're giving up some of your privacy and data. And how do you manage that balance? And so that's, we're working through that.
Right.
Do you want to go next,
Neville?
Neville?
Yeah, so not many people know, but we just recently hired 2 data scientists who are sitting with me out here. And the team is really looking at how advertising media will, work around VR and things like that. So there's some hope on that side that we're looking at from a media perspective. So it's completely different. We believe that there is an opportunity there.
Sure.
Yeah, and for me, I think some of the wild futuristic stuff that is blowing me away is all about the future of work. And what's wild about this particular trend is that the future of work is way more immediate than we think. Already, in Cisco, we are using augmented reality to come to meetings, and you can put your VR glasses to enter a meeting room with people from all over the world, and we can pick things up physically, and we'll work on whiteboards together and interact, with each other, in perfect digital fidelity. So if that's the present, then what the hell is the future going to look like? And so that's why we're taking the future of work as something that we're about to really get behind and really start exploring.
So next year we're going to have 4 robots up here doing this panel.
We are.
Thank you very much to our panelists.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.